Welcome to Get Organized at Work. I'm your host, Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, healthcare leader, mom of three, and your go-to guide for ditching the chaos and taking control of your workday. This is the show where we turn overwhelming to-do lists into clear, actionable plans so you can crush your goals and show up as your best self at work and in your life. Whether you're here for strategies to stay ahead or systems to simplify your workday, you're in the right place. Let's get organized, have some fun, and make this year your best year in your career yet. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to Get Organized at Work podcast. I'm Kayla. I'm your host. This week's episode started with a realization I had this past week while I was reviewing the results from my new Leadership Operating Score Audit. As leaders completed the assessment, I noticed something interesting. Most people knew their priorities. They knew what mattered, and they knew that they should be reviewing goals. They knew that they should be planning their week. They knew that they should be spending more time working proactively instead of reactively. And yet, most of them still landed in what I call the reactive risk zone. That got me thinking, if awareness isn't the problem, then what is the problem? Because if we're honest, most leaders don't wake up in the morning and think, okay, I hope my week feels chaotic. Nobody wants to spend their day putting out fires. Nobody wants to feel overwhelmed all the time. And no one wants to feel constantly like they're behind or reacting. And yet so many leaders find themselves there. So today I want to share a shift in my thinking that I believe explains why. And I think it might be the missing ingredient between knowing what matters and actually leading proactively. For the last few years, I've talked about a simple leadership equation. I've called it my proactive success formula or algorithm. It's awareness plus intention equals proactiveness, which leads to strategic results. The idea is straightforward. You have to become aware of what's happening around you. Then you have to intentionally choose your response. And while I still believe that's true, I've started to realize that it doesn't tell the whole story. Because I know plenty of leaders who are aware, and I know plenty of leaders and professionals with really good intentions, yet they still stay stuck. So what's missing? I think the missing ingredient is readiness, because awareness tells you, I have a problem or there's a problem. Intention tells you that you want to change. And honestly, in my mind, I was really thinking of intention, not just as I want to do something different, but also intentional action. So I was treating it more like a verb. But readiness is what makes you willing to do something different. And that sounds simple, but actually incredibly important and sometimes difficult. For example, most leaders know they should review their goals. Most people know they should proactively plan their week. And most professionals know they should have a better system for managing their projects or wherever they keep notes. The problem is that slowing down feels very uncomfortable for most people. Reviewing goals, that doesn't feel productive. Planning your week, that doesn't feel productive. Thinking doesn't even feel productive. But conversely, answering emails feels like I'm checking the box. Attending meetings feels very productive. Checking things off your task list feels super productive. Reacting feels productive. So even though we know what we should do, we default to activities that make us feel busy, not necessarily activities that will move our leadership forward. For me personally, the pause was so uncomfortable. I remember when I first started implementing weekly reviews and planning systems, I really wanted to change my behavior and therefore change the results, change the way I led. Part of me felt really guilty. I felt like I should be doing something else. I remember feeling like, well, maybe I should be responding to someone or checking something off, moving faster, when instead I had a calendar block to review my plans for the next day. I felt like I wasn't allowed to do this, but as a leader, I recognize that part of my work is thinking, and that is productive. Eventually, I experienced something that changed everything for me. I discovered that going slow actually helped me move faster. I wasn't spending more time planning. I was actually spending less time recovering from poor planning. I wasn't creating extra work. I was eliminating unnecessary work. And once I experienced that result, everything changed. because finally I had evidence. This is where I think many leaders get stuck. They have awareness, they have great intentions, but they don't yet have the evidence. They haven't experienced that awesome feeling and what happens when they proactively plan their week. They haven't experienced what happens when they review their goals consistently for an entire year. They haven't experienced what happens when they have one place where project information lives and it's really easy to find stuff. So from their perspective, the planning feels like extra work on top of the mountain they already have. The system feels like extra work. The review feels like extra work. And honestly, I totally understand that because I used to feel the same way. Like, I don't have time for reflection until I experience the payoff. That's when readiness shows up. So, how do we build readiness? Here's what I've learned. You don't need to overhaul your entire life all at one time. You don't need a perfect productivity system, and you don't need a 50-step 4 a.m. morning routine. You need one little win, one piece of evidence, one experience that proves being proactive is worth the effort. Maybe that's planning your week and having a calmer Monday. Maybe it's reviewing your goals and catching a project before it becomes a problem. Creating one place where project information lives and finding exactly what you need in seconds. Or blocking 30 minutes to think and realizing that prevented 3 hours of unnecessary work later. One win creates belief, and belief creates consistency, and showing up in action consistently creates results, proactive results. And that's actually one of the reasons I created the Leadership Operating Score Audit, because awareness is often the first step. Sometimes we can't improve what we haven't measured. So if you haven't taken the assessment yet, I've linked it in the show notes and the description. It's completely free, and in just a few minutes, you'll identify which leadership systems are strongest, which ones need attention, and where you may be operating more reactively than you realize. I've already started reviewing responses, and the patterns have been fascinating. If you'd like to see where you fall and get clarity on your next improvement opportunity, click the link in the show notes and take the Leadership Operating Score Audit. Now, if there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode, it's this. Most leaders don't stay reactive because they don't care. And most people don't stay reactive because they're lazy. Most leaders and professionals are reactive because they haven't yet experienced enough evidence to believe that slowing down is worth it. We've normalized staying busy, ticking the box, and showing results that are measurable right in the moment. Email answered, check. But we haven't slowed down to recognize that all the proactive things we can do make you exponentially more proactive in the future, save you time and energy. Awareness matters, intention matters, but readiness is what turns knowledge into action. So this week, don't try to change everything. Focus on creating one small win, one piece of evidence, one reason to believe. Because sometimes that's all it takes to change the way you lead forever. All right, until next time, keep getting organized at work. Please share this episode with a colleague or a friend who you think might benefit from it. And don't forget to take the Leadership Operating Score Audit in the show notes. All right, talk soon. Bye.